We have a second public hearing tonight. Development Permit 2017-623, Direct Control District 004. So, I will declare the non-statutory public hearing open, and the hearing is being held pursuant to sections 230, 606, and 692 of the Municipal Government Act. Ms. Winter, do you have a couple comments? Is it something I said? Was it something I said? Ms. Winter?
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you to members of council and the public. The purpose of permit application is for continued operation of a recreational vehicle storage facility at Plan 862-1006, Lot 1. It's 50569 Range Road 244 in the Direct Control District of 004. Notice of the non-statutory public hearing was given in writing to the applicant, adjacent property owners, and Leduc County. The non-statutory public hearing was advertised in the local newspaper on May 11th and May 18th, 2018. Written submissions are received or included in the non-statutory public hearing agenda package. Currently, there is one submission to read into the record at this time. Attention Supervisor of Legislative Services with the Town of Beaumont. Regarding development permit, dear council members, I am writing this letter on behalf of the owners of the RV lot and state RV storage regarding the development permit renewal. We wish to make council aware that we are in agreement with conditions 4 and 5 of the development permit conditions, and we feel that planting trees along the east and west sides is a fair alternative to installing new fencing for the purposes of screening. We are also in agreement with condition 6, stating that the boundary must be defined by wood posts, trees, or shrubbery, and we are also making arrangements for this to happen. We agree with all the conditions on the development permit. However, with condition 14, we ask that council reduce the number of calcium chloride dust suppression applications to once per year rather than twice per year, as we feel this would be sufficient. We also ask the application distance of 120 meters be reduced to 50 meters, since the adjacent landowner has already applied dust control to the south side of his property. To another 120 meters of application would far exceed their property line to the north, as such would not serve any purpose. Thank you for your time and consideration. Sincerely, Jeremy Killen, Property Supervisor. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And Ms. Argy, you're going to speak tonight for...
Yes, I am.
Please.
Thank you, Your Worship, and members of council. So as indicated, we're having a public hearing regarding a recreational vehicle storage permit, development permit application in a direct control district. A public hearing was held March 13th to consider this same permit. At the hearing, additional information and questions regarding the following were received: concerns from an adjacent landowner regarding dust suppression, and that the permit application did not match the existing and proposed RV storage location. Council referred the matter back to administration for clarification. Since that time, a real property report for the entire property has been provided to our office, and that report delineates the location of the RV storage use, as well as the location of existing landscaping in its proper and exact location. In consideration of the concerns and questions raised at the March 13th public hearing, conditions were modified or clarified to address the following: dust suppression, delineation of the development location, and screening. As a result of this additional information and changes to the proposed conditions, an additional public hearing is required to hear from affected parties. In preparing the development permit conditions, it is administration's intention to maintain the rights and privileges that landowners had under Leduc County while still mitigating concerns resulting from this particular use. Most of the conditions reiterate those provided originally by Leduc County, with the exception of the following: conditions 4 and 5, which provide for clarification on the additional landscaping required to effect screening and a time frame to effect that screening. Condition 6 provides for a boundary delineation for the use in accordance with the real property report. This demarcation will assist the business in maintaining the approved use within the development area and will assist Beaumont staff on inspections to confirm the same. Condition 14 defines the dust suppression location and the number of times it's required per year. The proposed conditions have been provided to the applicant, to Leduc County, and to adjacent landowners. Leduc County has responded with no concerns, and the adjacent landowner has verbally indicated that they are happy with the new conditions. A letter from the applicant was read earlier into the record at in this meeting. That concludes my presentation. If you have any questions, I would be happy to answer them.
Thank you very much. I appreciate all the work that's gone into this since the last time we heard this matter. Are there any questions of council tonight? Councilor Barnhart.
Thank you, Your Worship. One that I think I should know the answer to, but I've tried and I can't figure this one out. There's in the development, the conditions, number 1 talks about a permit being available for being valid for 1 year, and condition 3 talks about approval for 3 years, and then also mentions a development permit. I got lost in permits and approvals. Could you just clarify that for me?
I'm sure, Your Worship, through to Councillor Barnhart. So condition 1 needs to be read in its entirety. This permit is valid for a period of 1 year from the date the decision was made, noted above. If work does not commence within this time frame, then a new permit is required. So a development permit is valid for a year as long as development commences within that year, and then it runs with the land or according to a time frame. So condition 3 provides that time frame. It's valid for 3 years. So it needs to start within that first year, otherwise the development permit is null and void. And now that this business is actually running and has been, because it had a previous development permit, this permit will be good for 3 years.
Fine.
Yeah, so the first one's just a standard condition.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions from council? All right, hearing none. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Is there is there a representative of the applicant wishing to speak to council tonight during this public hearing? None? Is there anybody in favor of the proposed recreational storage facility development permit here tonight that wishing to speak to council? Wow, this is going much quicker than last time. Is there anybody opposed to the? Is there anybody wishing to speak to council tonight that's opposed to the proposed recreational vehicle storage facility? And lastly, is there any other person deemed to be affected who wishes to be heard on this matter this evening? All right, hearing none, I declare this public hearing closed. Thank you very much. All right, item 6A, we have 2 registered presentations tonight. The first is from the Ecole Colonial Estate School. They have a presentation for us. Please come up, sign in, address the mic.
Oops, I'm sorry, I touched something.
Oh. That's not going to be.
Oh, okay, sorry. Hi, my name is Valerie Levesque. I'm a grade 6 teacher at Ecole Colonial Estates, and after visiting in November-ish, with Mr. Stewart, we had a conversation, and then he was asking the students like what would they like for the town of Beaumont, and they all wanted a bowling alley. So we decided that to go forward, that we need to do something. So with the kids and the students at our school, we did a petition around the school, and do you want to read?
Come on, be confident. It's okay.
No, they're just later. Okay, so I'll do it. Then they're too shy. It's fine. They did a great job, and we just come up with a couple reasons why it could be good for Beaumont. So we're going to have an extra activity to do with our friends and family during the weekends or even for our birthdays. Our parents are not going to drive us to the city, so it will help to decrease the greenhouse gas. We're going to be able to walk, and it will also be money going towards the taxes. So students were very happy, and so what we did, we went around our school and we asked for signature of different students and then parents and teachers to see if they agree. And then we had 350 signatures from just our school and people around. So we think it could be a good idea for the town of Beaumont, and we would like to hear what you think about it.
Thank you very much for coming in this evening. we really do appreciate it. And actually, it's actually nice to see, because you guys were mentioning that as you went out the door, we're going to do this petition. So it's nice to see the follow through and getting involved in civic politics. And it's actually quite timely that you're presenting this petition now, because I know that our administration is currently in the middle of master planning for recreational facilities within the town. So grateful to receive the petition on behalf of the students and pass it on to them so that it can be considered in that respect and as it goes forward. Smile. I coached you in soccer. You should not be this frank. Or was I that scary of a coach? Yeah, no, anyway, like I said, so we'll pass it on and it'll get considered as part of in that plan, and we really appreciate you coming forward. Are there any comments or questions from other members of council? No. So, thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate it. Okay, our second registered presentation tonight is from the Yellowhead Regional Library, Mr. Kevin Dodds.
Thank you. Well, good evening, Your Worship, councillors. Appreciate the opportunity to come speak to you about Yellowhead Regional Library. I know there's many new faces around your council from the last time I was out here speaking to council. So I'd like to give you just a brief overview of what Yellowhead Regional Library is and give you some highlights of the services that we bring to your municipal library and answer any questions you might have. So I know you have my information, or our information package, in your council package online there, so I'm just going to go through it quickly, highlight some of the areas, and not take too much of your time up, because I can speak on this for a long time. So anyways, just to talk about a regional library system in general. Its purpose is to collaborate with the municipal members, provide services to the municipal libraries of the members, and because we have a total population of just under 300,000, we're able to collectively put together services that small urban and rural municipal libraries could not do on their own. So it's a way of creating equity in library services across the province. Everybody wants to be Edmonton or Calgary Public Library, but not everybody has the population base or the finances. So by putting together a regional library system, there are 7 in the province, it's a way of creating equity for the residents of those municipalities. So that sort of gives you an idea of what we are. I'm going to flip over to this section on membership and governance. So we have 55 municipalities and 3 school divisions that are members of the regional library system. The members are the municipalities. The recipients of the service are the libraries. You, as a municipality, have gone into a legal agreement with the other 54 municipalities and 3 school divisions to create, to govern, to fund a regional library system. So Yellowhead is not an autonomous body. We are you, or you are us, however you want to look at that. But essentially that's what it is. If every municipality said tomorrow, we no longer need a regional library system, I disappear. Somewhat. Anyways, in terms of funding, your municipality pays an appropriation, as all the others do, $4.30 per capita. That membership rate has been in effect since 2009. It has not increased, although your total amount that you're paying per year has increased as your population has grown. And you are quite a fast-growing community. From the time I started 29 years ago, Beaumont was much smaller. So in total, your municipality pays just under $79,000 for regional library services. So as I talk about the services, all of that is included in that money you pay. There are no additional costs to the library or to you as a municipality. In terms of governance, every municipality appoints a trustee to the Yellowhead Board, and then through that trustee, the wishes of council can be brought to the library system. In the case of Beaumont, it's your Public Library Board Chair, Len Spink, who's been on the Yellowhead Board for many years. So, moving on to the section called Connections and Collaboration, that's essentially what library systems are about. Collaborating together where we share and we provide better services to the local residents. There are three groups here listed: Alberta Municipal Affairs Public Library Services Branch. The provincial government also provides operating grants to municipal libraries and to regional library systems. So we get from the province, in addition to the $4.30 per capita from the municipalities, we get $4.70 per capita from the province based on our total population of 294,000. So that we're combining that money to bring services to your residents. The province also provides some other services. One of the most notable one is the access to the SuperNet. The province pays for the SuperNet connection for every public library in the province and for the regional library system. So for Beaumont, the province is paying Axia SuperNet almost $900 a month for that connection, for them to do library business for that. So the province has a significant investment in terms of finances into libraries in the province. The next, this is acronym city, so the next group, the Regional Automation Consortium, that's Yellowhead Regional Library and 3 other library systems in the province. We formed a consortium. The purpose of that consortium is to provide integrated library software, a library software system for the member libraries to use, and also to provide some electronic resources. Now, to give you an idea, for most of the public, yourselves, if you have a library card and you go on to TrackPack, that's the public catalog of the resources of 180 public libraries. So a library card from Beaumont, a track card, is good in all 180 libraries across these 4 library systems. You can walk in, you'll be treated as a local resident, and it's good for placing holds and requests on library materials. So that's, in effect, is a good use of funds because the 4 of us are sharing the cost of a library system, which is quite expensive, and also saying there's 180 libraries and there's 3.3 million items in the track catalog. So that's collectively owned by those 180 libraries. So if your patrons can't find what they're looking for in there, well, there's a few other things. The next group is called the Alberta Library, and this is a consortium of public, regional, and academic University College Technical Institute libraries. So there is a catalog called TAL Online that patrons can place requests on for materials they can't find within track. And there's also a TAL card that they can go and use that at NAIT, Grant MacEwan, U of A, and borrow materials there. So it's a way we bring it all together and sort of like the provincial connection to the public libraries for the patrons. The next section, bibliographic services, these are traditional library services, and I'll just skip over them quickly. But this is where your library can place orders through the Yellowhead headquarters. When the materials come, we process those materials, catalog them into the database, and send them out. Your library receives a purchasing budget from the Yellowhead headquarters. That's 75 cents per capita. That's been updated since the package in 2018. So they're receiving just under $14,000 a year for collections from the regional system board, along with the money you provide your municipal library yourself. The other area where we are saving time is we provide deliveries to your library twice a week. There's a lot of materials coming in and going out. We take care of all the sorting and directing at headquarters. The library staff here just have to throw it in bins ready for pickup. The next section is called Client Services. We have librarians that work with the staff in the member libraries. They work on a variety of things. Library operations can work with the boards on policies or strategic planning. And these librarians do a lot of training on our library software system, on all the different electronic resources, and through a variety of means like in-person training or webinars and so on. So they're there to train the staff and to assist the staff in providing excellent library service. Also from this area, we provide network and desktop support services. So your library is on the Yellowhead network. So the staff computers, we provide computers you purchase, but we provide the software, Microsoft Office 365. Yellowhead pays for the internet bandwidth that's used by your patrons in the library, provides a Wi-Fi device so patrons can access it. Just to give you an idea, in 2017, there was just over 16,000 connections in Beaumont Library to that Wi-Fi device. We also provide a website for your library. So if you've looked at that, that's a website that's about a year old. There were over 12, almost 13,000 unique individuals visiting that website, and they looked at almost 65,000 pages on that website. So you have a very active library community. In terms of one of the big areas in regional library service, we facilitate the lending of resources between libraries. And I can certainly say that in Beaumont, you have a very active library community. In terms of lending of resources to other libraries in track, Beaumont lent just over 9,500 items in 2017. Beaumont patrons brought in over 33,000 items from other libraries into the community. So it's a good way of sharing resources. No library can have a collection that's going to satisfy all needs. And for very popular titles, you know, whoever your favorite author is, they're brand new titles, you'll find that there's 80 copies within all of track. What this does is make sure that patrons get those library materials pretty quickly. If you had one copy at Beaumont and that was the only one available, it's out for two weeks at a time, say. 26 patrons could get that in a year's time. So this is a way of sharing resources and making effective use of them. In terms of other services under client services, that pretty much sums up the main ones. Collections. Electronic resources are becoming really big in the world. So through Yellowhead, there are 24 different electronic resources patrons of the member libraries can access. One of them is called Overdrive. Got lots of names, lots of great names here. And it's essentially electronic books and audio books. And in 2017, almost 9,000 items were borrowed by, electronic items were borrowed by Beaumont patrons. There's another service. I can't keep a straight face. It's called Hoopla. That's the company's name. That's their name. I didn't choose it. Anyways, it is a streaming service. Movies, music, television, and a few other things. And there were over 2,000 downloads of various products on this service made by Beaumont residents. This is a unique product in that every time a download is made, there is a charge for it, and it ranges from about $1.99 to $3.99. And so the cost for that for Beaumont residents was over $4,700 last year. And there's an online magazine service called RB Digital, and there's about 150 magazines in there, and over 602 magazines were checked out by Beaumont patrons in 2017. We have for the library to use in their programs a variety of program kits, and we have special collections that are also available. One that just started last year, late in the fall. We provide makerspace kits now so that, you know, a robotics kit can be borrowed by the library here and patrons can do some robotics work. So there's 6 different kits in there. We have to update this package. That's the whirlwind tour of Yellowhead Regional Library.
Wow.
Yes.
No, thank you very much for coming in tonight. That was actually a very comprehensive report because I've seen the download in our library, but I didn't realize the scope of
Yes.
where we were attached to. So I do appreciate the update and the information. Are there any questions from other members of council this evening? Councillor Stout.
Thank you, Worship. Through your Worship to Mr. Dodds. Just a quick question. There's a reference in here to ME libraries.
Oh, the ME libraries.
What's that mean?
Well, it started off as in the Edmonton area, and I think it started off as being Metro Edmonton, but the province took over that. So essentially what it is, melibraries.ca is the website. If you have a track card from Beaumont Library, you sign into that website, and then what will appear on the next screen is a choice for you to join other libraries. You can join 3 other library systems. You can join Edmonton, Calgary, Red Deer, Strathcona County, St. Albert, just by checking it. What that does is then takes the patron information in the track database, dumps it into, say you want to join St. Albert, into the St. Albert library system, and you are now a patron of St. Albert Public Library at no cost. You can go into that library and use your track card as a library card there. That's Me Library. So it's a way of essentially getting access to the services of all public libraries in the province, barring a few that don't belong to regions, but they're quite small. And the only thing it doesn't give you is access to their electronic resources, because the way those licensing agreements work, they're based on population. So when Yellowhead licenses an electronic resource, it's for the 300,000 population of all the Yellowhead member libraries, but it doesn't cover people in Edmonton or Calgary or other municipalities. But that's essentially Me Library. So Me doesn't stand for any more other than, you know, personal me.
Thank you.
Me Library. I know the English is pretty bad there, but. So you have an opportunity. You can join almost everywhere. If you're traveling around the province a lot, I'd say sign up through there, and then you can visit other libraries, take out materials while you're there.
Thank you. Councillor Barnhart.
Thank you. Thank you, Worship, and thank you to the presenter. That was very comprehensive and fast. I think I've heard you once before, because I've been on the library board now.
I have 29 years at Yellowhead.
Yeah,
Kind of
so you've done another.
Down to 10 or 15 minutes is a difficulty for me.
Very good, very good. One question that remains in my mind. You mentioned that there are 3 school boards,
Yes.
and that's not how many there are in the region. So I'm just
No,
wondering,
there's-
what is that about, and why do some choose to and some not? Just as municipalities choose to or
Black
not.
Gold School Division belonged at one time, but dropped out.
Black
So there's-
Gold? Okay.
Yeah, potentially 11 school divisions in that could belong to Yellowhead. Our school package is different from the municipal package. There is no provincial funding provided, so the cost per student is $13.95 per student for a school division. Alberta Education doesn't provide any funding for that. Back in the mid to late 90s, there was quite a hit taken by school libraries. And so a lot of school divisions had financial issues, and that was some who cut their services to Yellowhead. Since then, there's some thought in school libraries, I don't necessarily agree with it, that the internet can replace a library. That the internet has wonderful resources on it, but it doesn't necessarily replace some books and literacy activities that can be done. So again, it's choice, and most school divisions have chosen not to belong to.
Could I just ask which 3 are members of the?
It's Pembina Hills School Division, so that's the Barhead area, and it's Barhead Westlock. Yeah, now you've asked me a question
no,
I can't remember.
Okay, that's
it's
okay.
the Northern Gateway School Division. That's Whitecourt, Lac St. Anne area. And the third is the Wetaskiwin Regional Division.
Thank you for
So
that.
those are the 3 that are remaining.
Okay.
One time we served over 40,000 students and had probably about 75 or 80 schools. Now we're down to 11,000 students and approximately 44 schools there.
Thank you very much. Once again, I really appreciate you coming in tonight and providing the overview, and
My pleasure, and
hopefully we'll see you again.
thank you. And if you have any questions, I'm not too hard to track down.
We know where Len is.
Yes, thank you very much.
Thanks. Thank you. Okay, item 6B, unregistered presentations. Is there anybody wishing to address council this evening? All right, moving on. Item 7A, Beaumont RCMP year-end report and policing priorities approval. Staff Sergeant Jeffrey Egan.
Good evening, Your Worship, elected officials, councillors.
Welcome.
I'm here again today for Council to present our RCMP quarterly report, which is also our year-end report. And as a quick reminder to all, the RCMP fiscal year is April 1st to March 31st of the next year, so it doesn't line up with the calendar year. And the reason I remind Council that is some of the statistics that I'll be referring to, they come from Stats Canada based on the calendar year. So many of the numbers, minus a few corrections, will be the same or similar to my previous report to Council. Purpose of my report today, three purposes. An overview of our statistics from Beaumont, the town of Beaumont, to provide some brief commentary on the ongoings within our detachment in the community, and to discuss annual policing priorities. So that will be to summarize last year's policing priorities and to present for recommendation next year's, our 2018-2019 policing priorities. So again, the statistics come from operational strategy branch out of headquarters. They're not all inclusive. If there are statistics that the town specifically requests, they can be made available. However, the statistics as presented provide a consistent basis for comparison in our own community and to compare with other communities in the central Alberta district of the RCMP. So that would be the RCMP detachments in and around the Edmonton capital region, basically east and west to the borders of Alberta. I'll be referring to three categories of statistics. The first one will be crimes against persons. The second will be property crimes, and the third will be overall crime statistics, criminal code violations. So at a glance, our crimes against persons have gone down 3% since 2016, and our 5-year trend is down 16%. So we are seeing a decrease in assaults. And the other measurable category is uttering threats, which has gone down by 39% since 2016 and overall by 12% since last year. When we get to the complete statistics, we will see, according to the operational strategy branch, anything that is under the 20 is deemed statistically too small to measure as a percentage change. So those are the only two that I can measure. So we'll see the other numbers, but we can't measure the change from one year to the other. Well, crimes against persons are down. Overall, our private crimes have increased by 13% since last year. In some categories, there have been decreases, such as break-and-enters and mischiefs. There have been increases in other areas, such as theft of motor vehicles and theft under $5,000. So that's based on the division under the criminal code. What we'll see a lot, and I'll refer to later on in my report, is many of those, almost half of the theft under $5,000 are thefts from motor vehicles. While those numbers have gone up, they're not at the same rate that those crimes have gone up in other communities in our district. So there's a little bit of bad news and good news to that, those numbers. Overall, again, our crime has gone up 2% over last year, and we've seen a 2% increase in the last 5 years, 2013 to 2017, which is much lower or significantly lower than our other counterparts in the district, whereas provincially we've seen an increase in provincial attachments by 37% and 20% in our municipal counterparts. So crime is going up, not as much in our community as in others. We'll note, I have coming up a population graph, and I think it's worth noting that our population has also gone up in Beaumont in the last 5 years by approximately 3,400 residents. So with that increased population, a 2% increase in crime has also been noted. I'd like to thank the community. Our numbers of suspicious vehicles, persons, and property calls have gone up. So there's obviously members of our community that value our way of life in this community, and they're vigilant to the ongoings, and when they see something that seems out of order, they're not afraid to call us and to report it. If we don't know, we can't do anything about it. That's kind of the moral of that story. So thank you to our community for reporting those events. They've gone up from 187 to 215 over 1 year. Another number I'm glad to see go down are false alarm calls. over the last 3 years, from 318 down to 297 and to 262 in 2017. I think with our bylaw, our false alarm bylaw, when we notify our residents of a false alarm, we also provide some tips of ways of reducing those alarms. So again, I'd like to thank our citizens for the diligence in helping reduce that number. And the final statistic at a glance is our crime severity index. So I'll go a little bit more detail into it in a moment, but just overall, Alberta, the value is 102, the baseline is 100, and Beaumont for the 2016 year had a crime severity index of 49.2, making it one of the safer and communities in the province and lowest numbers. I'll explain a little bit more about that statistic as I go on. And as I previously touched upon, we've seen an increase in our population. If we're looking at our last 5 years, 2013 to 2017, we have seen that increase in population, and slightly over the last year as well. So here's the overall statistics that are provided by our operational strategy branch. That does contain all of our numbers, but as noted on the bottom, they view statistically any number under 20 is not valid. So if we go into the first category of crimes against persons, the two numbers I referred to are assaults, where we had a total of 67 in 2017. That was down 3% from 2016. And our uttering threats, that number has gone down 39% since last year, and over the 5-year trend, it's gone down 12%. Highlighting a few of the property crime statistics, and I'll go more in depth about the motor vehicles, the theft of motor vehicles and the theft under $5,000. So some of the positives are the decrease in the break and enters of last year. We see a substantial increase over the last 5 years in that number, but we are starting to go in the right direction and going down. Again, substantial increase in theft of motor vehicles over the 5-year trend, and that number has also gone up over the last year. And another category where we're seeing increases in frauds, and the Anti-Fraud Center website offers multiple tips to the general public on current fraud scams, for lack of better terms, and preventative measures, what to do if you are a victim of a fraud. One of the more common ones we're seeing is when someone will offer a person who has something for sale, they'll offer an overpayment of price. They'll after they make a deposit in the account, they'll request some of that money back, telling our victim they can keep a portion of it for their troubles, for services rendered. When they do that, that initial deposit comes back as fraudulent. So basically what the person did is they gained nothing, but they gave up X number of dollars of their own money to our criminal. So we have done some fraud presentations. Again, I'll touch on it shortly, but that's one of the more common crime types that we're seeing right now, or the methods. And overall, at the very bottom, as I mentioned, 2% increase over the last year and 2% over the previous 5 years. Second page are just more statistics that are provided by our our operational strategies branch. I'll be focusing on the first page, as the majority of them have been identified in our policing priorities. And just quickly, the crime severity index, I provided the number. I have only been in Beaumont, I'm coming up on 1 year, so I have not lived through a full change of this number through Stats Canada. We're expecting the first change, or for my first change, to come in July of this year. So I provide this number with a little bit of caution. It's a good number right now. However, what it's based on is basically is a measurement of serious crimes in a community based on your population. So a large population in a community, a serious crime is just really a blip on the radar. Beaumont, with our smaller population, I cannot speculate how this may impact our crime severity index if we were to have serious crime committed in Beaumont. So once those statistics come out, I will look at them. I will provide that number, but maybe I'll be able to break it down if there is a change. It may remain constant. That's to be determined. So I just like to comment on that as I provide the number while it is low at 49.2. Quickly, commentary. With the RCMP, we see our fair change in staff. We're looking at 5 members transferring out last year and the arrival of 4 coming in. We have only had 1 noted hard vacancy, and that's since January. We're showing a vacancy in our Beaumont drug position. We're talking with our staffing personnel to identify not just a candidate, but a qualified candidate with the skill set to perform that job. So for 3 months, we have that hard vacancy. Community engagement, quite proud of this, the work that our members and community have done together. We're just highlighting some of the events that have occurred in the past year, bringing police and our public together in non-enforcement activities. So upon my arrival, Harp Dollywell had organized, along with the entire detachment, an open house well received in our community. Since I've been here, we've provided 3 crime prevention information sessions through the Beaumont Chamber of Commerce. I have given fraud presentation to our seniors at Place Beauséjour. We're coming around at that time of year. We'll be issuing out our detachment commander awards to students in our schools who exemplify the core competencies and values of the RCMP. I did that last year, and that's, I think, our high school's first one sets for June 6th. Participation with FCSS in Family Violence Awareness Month. Again, we're very involved with the staff and students at the Chantal Berube Youth Center. Some of our ceremonial events this year are 150 celebrations, Town and Country Days last year, and Franco-Alberta Days. We're in attendance in Red Surge. Friday nights, we're visiting our youth at our Beaumont Church. We had 2 Remembrance Day ceremonies, or 1 official ceremony, but a second event called No Stone Left Alone to recognize veterans in our Beaumont cemeteries. And a variety of organized sports, including a charity hockey game this year. A quick acknowledgement to all our volunteers. We're the envy of many detachments in the district to have such community engagement at our office in terms of volunteers. We have them work in our office. Our citizens on patrol are volunteers, so thank you very much to them. So quickly to go over our 2017-2018 policing priorities. These were established last year, and for the most part, this is the same information I provided last report, again, with the calendar year versus the RCMP fiscal year. So substance abuse was identified as a priority, so we attempted to address this through education, through high school, specifically to give a fentanyl presentation. There was one the previous year to the community as well. Just this year, only the high school had that presentation. Our younger grades were provided with 3 DARE classes to help those young students make healthy choices and how they deal with negative situations as they grow up. And I'd be remiss if I didn't take the opportunity to again reach out to our public and look for assistance in providing information to help combat any illicit drug trade that's going on in our community. The second measure would be our positive youth development. I think our final total number, and this is between the RCMP and our municipal enforcement officers, would be 1,148 positive interactions with our young kids. This is kind of targeting where we see the largest area of our children in our community, that age 5 to 9. So whenever we identify positive activities, we'll reward our kids with positive tickets. That's in support by the positive ticketing community and many of the businesses in Beaumont. We're just delivering the message through the RCMP. And we had a special event this Halloween for safety tips, as previously reported, at our younger schools. And again, we continue to be at our youth center. So those are some of our positive things. Now, as previously mentioned, our property crimes have gone up, and we're not alone. In Central Alberta District, there's been a 66% increase at provincial detachments over the last 5 years, and 46 at our municipal detachments. As previously stated, in Beaumont, our number's gone up 13%. So we've gone up, but haven't gone up as much as some of our other communities. So when I look at the number of attempted or thefts of motor vehicles for last year, as the statistics state, we're at about 48, I believe it was. I had our support staff data mine some of those numbers, and I wanted to know, of those those 48, how many can we confirm that were stolen by force? Someone broke a window, pried open the door. This could have changed, but definitely we could only confirm that 6 of those 48 vehicles were stolen by force. Others were unknown, and some people were admitting that, yes, I left my keys in my vehicle. I left my vehicle running unattended. And that kind of holds true again if you look at our theft from motor vehicles. Of 196 theft unders, through data mining, we determined about half of that number, 94, were theft from motor vehicles. And again, I asked our support staff to look through those numbers and how many were confirmed by forced entry. We again usually are looking for broken glass. That number confirmed was only 11. So 11 out of 86, and it could be more, as our complainants weren't too sure. So a very low number, and as recent as this past weekend, again, we've had some more thefts from motor vehicles, and nothing as of yet has been confirmed by force. We're still looking into these investigations. That can change. But my point is, again, not that it'll prevent all crime, but if we can get our community to stop leaving vehicles unattended, to stop leaving keys in the vehicles, to stop leaving valuables, it definitely would assist in reducing that number. It won't prevent all crimes, but it'll greatly assist. And the final priority, this was mandated by RCMP, and it really ties into some of our property crimes, is our offender management. So we are looking at people that in the community that we know are on conditions for committing previous type crimes. We'll enforce those conditions with, as one way of reducing property crimes. We run the Lock It or Lose It program through our community Citizens on Patrol. And we patrol hotspots, which has statistically been shown to be effective in reducing some property crimes by repeated attendance to known crime areas. Excuse me. And finally, as previously reported, there's a comments over, but the Central Alberta District created a pilot project on a crime reduction unit. This focuses on the provincial interjurisdictional prolific offenders that don't abide by our border system, that we will say this is the town of Beaumont. They live in wherever in the area, and they'll travel through a jurisdiction to commit crimes. This unit had the ability to target these individuals no matter where they lived, and to arrest them on outstanding violations, prevent future crimes. So the provincial government, in my opinion, based in part of this success, has invested $8 million towards expanding our RCP crime reduction efforts. That includes 4 full-time crime reduction teams in the various districts. So Central Alberta District, which we are part of, and we can draw on this resource, they now have a provincially funded full-time team. So that's the summary of last year's priorities, and to go into our 2018-2019 recommended or proposed policing priorities. So through some community consultation, specifically our Community Advisory Committee, a survey was put out to our citizens to help identify what they view as value in determining our policing priorities. So this year we had 728 respondents, which was almost doubles up from 423 participants in the previous year. So the committee decided to put several categories, and we did offer an option as other, but we provided some suggestions on what may be priorities in the community for policing. So they were identified as property crimes, crimes against persons, impaired driving, illegal drug-related offenses, preventing youth crimes through positive youth development, community education, and traffic enforcement. So if we go to the results that came back in, I have a bar graph that will show our citizens view their #1 priority as being property crime. Number 2 would be crimes against person, followed by impaired driving, the illegal drug trade. Next would be preventing youth crime, followed by community education, and lastly, traffic enforcement. So what does that mean? That's 728 residents of our community, and these are their priorities. We've had other talks in our community advisory committee about what they view as priority issues. I talk to people on a regular basis. I field complaints from the public, and just general chit chat with the citizens. So what we recommend on kind of combining all that would be property crimes is our #1 priority identified in our community. So this year the RCMP has mandated crime reduction strategies as a mandatory priority. Does that deviate from what the town says is the #1 priority? No, it doesn't. The heading would be crime reduction strategies if accepted, but falling under that would be combining two things from last year. One would be continued effort towards reducing property crimes, and the second of all would be habitual offender management. Basically what we'd be targeting is the people committing the crimes and not solving the crimes per se. So we can take the people that are committing them, then we can hopefully reduce the number of property crimes. So we can address the #1 priority through that proposed priority. When I looked at crimes against persons, and I had to think about this number, it's #2 priority. Well, I think no one would argue that your personal safety takes precedent over the value of your property. It's our #1 concern. In the survey, it fell down to #2, and then I looked at the statistics. So our assaults have gone down. We have had a total of, I think it was around 80 assaults from 2017. We don't have a lot of violence against persons, 67, excuse me. We don't have a lot of violence against persons in our community. Now, that doesn't mean there's not violence that's occurring and not being reported, but I can only base our statistical data on what is reported. So, yes, while personal safety is always our #1 priority, statistically, we are not seeing a lot of violence against persons in our community. It does occur. We're not exempt from it. It's just not as high as perhaps the perception. Based on that and through some of our consultation, we're not recommending that as a priority. And again, our priorities will never take away from our enforcement of any of our federal, municipal, or provincial legislation. And responding to the calls about violence will always receive our utmost priority response and investigation. It just won't be a monitored priority through our recommendations. That would take us down to impaired driving, which was our third identified priority. Looking at what we've seen so far, we are seeing impaired driving charges this year in the first quarter of the year, the calendar year. And I think what we'll recommend is we're going to combine that. This year we'll see the legalization of cannabis, and we just don't know how that will impact our road safety through driving while impaired by drugs. So I think we're going to recommend to council impaired driving by alcohol or drugs. We have some legislation in place. We're waiting for royal assent. I believe it's Bill C-46, which will offer some new powers of enforcement. And we also need to wait for some of the tools that we have, for example, in alcohol enforcement. We have equipment to scientifically measure your alcohol concentration in your blood. We have roadside screening devices. We don't have that yet for our drugs. So right now, the training that we'll be relying upon is based on officer training. And if we get to the point, they can make a demand for certain types of bodily fluid, but it's not as quick and simple as we'll say deal with a person who's been drinking a few beers and driving a car, where we can make a demand on suspicion, present them with a roadside instrument, and they have to provide a sample forthwith. So, and again, once the legislation is passed, then we'll have to wait and see how that pans out in charter challenges through our court system. So we're waiting on legislation, but I don't think that means we can wait to see how that turns out in courts. We need officers on the road to conduct continued enforcement. The last recommendation we'll make to council again would be preventing youth crime. While it does come low in the survey, the town census from, I believe it was 2016 or 2017, 2017 municipal census shows that 26% of our population is under the age of 16, and our highest age demographic is between 5 and 9. I don't think we should give up on all the work we've done to establish those relationships with our young people. We're a growing community, and we still have a very large population, almost a quarter under the age of 16. So we'll recommend that as a priority. And then we also have an internal priority with our CMP. It's employee wellness. So the 4 recommendations that I put forward, 2 are based on RCP mandated, but we'll cover, first one will be crime reduction strategies to cover off property crime and offender management. Second will be impaired driving, both drugs and alcohol. Thirdly, positive youth engagement. And finally, employee wellness, which will just be an internal measurement in the RCP. So that's my presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. It's nice to know that we live in one of the safest communities in Alberta, and that the stats bear that out, because with the property crime the way it is, sometimes that message doesn't quite get out there. Moving forward, is there any questions of council? Because I think we're looking for three decisions tonight. So we'll start with questions from council and go from there. Any questions of council? Councillor Stout.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through Your Worship to Staff Sergeant Egan. There was some discussion of impaired driving and the priorities attached to that. Where in the report does impaired driving occur? I don't see a specific, in the historic report, I don't see a specific category for it, so I'm assuming it's included in something else, but I wasn't quite sure what that would be.
No, and I asked the same question. It's not included in this report. It can be made available, but I noticed that too. When I was looking at that, I'm like, how come we don't have it? So my understanding of the explanation I was provided is the categories are attempted and or completed statistics. Now, there's rules in reporting how impaired drivers come in. It's whether or not it was deemed to have occurred or it's unfounded. It's just some confusion in the statistics, the way they're gathered, and that's why they're not included. Again, I can provide that. I can tell you through my own research of charges laid since January 1st to present. We've had 10 persons charged with impaired driving in our community, and 4 people have been charged with refusing to provide breath samples. So that's 14 charges in relation to impaired by alcohol since January 1st.
Thank you. Yes, I would love to see those statistics historically if they could be made available.
Councillor Van Newkirk.
Hello, thank you. Through Your Worship to the presenter, thanks for coming in tonight and sharing a whole bunch of wonderful numbers with us. I was wondering if you could recall, I couldn't find it, may have overlooked it. How long was the survey open that you collected 728 respondents?
I don't have the exact dates. If I can estimate, approximately about a month.
About a month?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you for that. Can I see?
One more, yeah.
One of the conversations that I think Councillor Monkoff-Swain brought up last time you were here was just around the school resource officer. Just looking for an update on that, if that role is being functioning in the community or not, or where that's at.
So what we have in our community is a designated enhanced position called a crime prevention victim services position. So it's not a designated school relations officer. The officer filling that mandate does work in our schools, and I'd say the majority of his work is in our schools, but he has other responsibilities outside of that. So there's costs that come with policing, and the cost of a police officer does not just include base salary. It's a forecasted cost, and the RCP can provide that cost to the town, and it'll be up to the town to decide if they wish to invest that money in policing and the best value for that position. Is it enhanced to complement of general duty police officers, or is it better to put that into a boots on the street, as you say, another general duty constable? So there's a cost, and it's a yearly cost. And I'll just also state that because of our population under our municipal policing service agreement, the town of Beaumont is paying 90% of those costs. So we're up from the 70-30 split. So the cost of a police officer, whether it's boots on the street, as I mentioned, or if it's in our schools, there's a cost to it. So it'll be up to town to decide where it's best to invest that money if they choose. Just changing the name of our crime prevention victim services position to school resource officer. I don't think we'll see any change because our current officer is doing the majority of his work in our school. So if that's required, we can get those numbers, the recommendation. I've provided the process on call up to the Treasury Board, and I'll be for the town to decide.
Yeah, thank you. I think it might be a worthwhile conversation for us to have around budget time. One more or someone else?
One more.
Okay, on community engagement, the little dudes and dudettes love getting tickets, so I think that the school resource officer comes alongside that. Is there any other areas in community engagement where you'd like to see some more involvement at all from citizens? Looks like you're doing lots, but is there any other spots that could increase?
I mean, we're seeing the volunteers. We're getting applications. We have there's some advertisement done for our community advisory committee. We have some applicants for that positions. So we're seeing that. I mean, that's a great way to get involved in the community in terms of policing. We have, as I covered that stat, the numbers about people reporting suspicious activity. We do need more of that. We do see quite a bit. Whether or not there's a value in an organized, I guess we do have our citizens on patrol, but more of a, I don't want to call it a formalized crime watch, but again, if we don't know, we can't respond. So anything where citizens would come forward, and whether it's suspicious activity, it's drugs. I provided the number if people want to remain anonymous when it comes to drug information. So again, we need to know when that suspicious activity is occurring, not after the fact. We do need to know it happened. Again, we can't investigate if we don't know. So probably that would be the area.
Cool. Thank you very much.
Councillor Barnhart.
Thank you, Your Worship, and thank you, Staff Sergeant, for the information. And I want to give you kudos as well for the opportunities that you're providing to the community to get involved and to be involved with you in crime prevention. One of the programs that I just found out about, I was able to go along on a ride along this weekend, and I heard about and actually saw in action the I want to say volunteer guards, but I know they're not volunteers. They're retired or semi-retired individuals who are spending time helping out in the detachment here in Beaumont.
Yeah.
And I had never heard of that program. I didn't realize we had one, and I thought that could maybe be advertised a little bit more, unless maybe you have plenty of people doing it. I don't know, but perhaps you could take the opportunity to let people know about that.
Okay. Thank you very much. Our guards are advertised, they're employed through the Corps Commissioners, but to have a multitude of available guards is always a benefit, especially when they're local. Then they're available to assist from time to time when we do have prisoners. So I will bring that to the attention of our head matron and to our officer that kind of oversees the operation of the guards. So thank you.
Councillor Daniluk.
Thank you, Your Worship. Thank you, Staff Sergeant Egan. Just a quick question in general. Is there anything the town can do to assist the RCMP in doing your work? Anything else that we could be doing that we're not doing? Anything pie in the sky thing you can think of? If not today, perhaps they could think of it and get back to us at a future time. But what else could the town do to help the RCMP?
One thing that we're still working on, it would be getting preventative messaging out. If we report a large incident through regular media services, sometimes it's not picked up because it's not newsworthy in the big picture. However, we do have messages, as I verbally stated tonight, about reminding our citizens to lock their vehicles, to not leave valuables inside. So we're having we're moving forward in that with communications through the town. I think that's where I'd like to see our crime prevention victim services officer push that message out more as reminders. However, there is so much support from the town. Again, a reciprocal thank you to the town and to their elected officials for that support. So that's an area we're working on, and that's your question.
Thank you very much. Seeing no further comments, just got a quick question for Ms. Winter. Are we looking for 3 motions tonight? Okay. So can I get a thank you very much for the comprehensive report, and I really appreciate that coming in. And going forward, I think we're in good hands with our policing priorities and moving forward. So looking forward to that. So let's call some questions and then we'll move on. Can I get a motion to receive the 2017-2018 Beaumont RCMP Yearly Update and Policing Priorities Report as information? Councillor Danluck.
So move, Your Worship. Thank you.
Any debate on the motion? Hearing none. All in favor? It's carried unanimously. Can I get a motion to approve the 2017-2018 Beaumont RCMP Yearly Update Report? Councillor Stout.
So moved, Your Worship.
Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none. All in favor? Carries unanimously. And lastly, that Council approve the 2018-2019 policing priorities for the town of Beaumont as presented. Councillor Van Newkirk.
So moved.
Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none. All in favor? And that carries unanimously. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Good night.
All right, next item on the agenda. Smart Fare Memorandum of Understanding. Ms. Lewin.
Good evening, Your Worship and members of Council. I was at the February 20th, 2018 Committee of the Whole meeting where I presented some information on transit and introduced the Smart Fare system at that time. We have no new costs provided, so it's the same information that you saw back in February. The only thing new this evening would be that a memorandum of understanding has been drafted by the City of Edmonton, Strathcona County, and St. Albert to add municipal partners to the regional transit smart fare system. So this memorandum of understanding, or MOU, is not intended to create a legal binding relation, but rather to establish the shared understanding of how the parties will move forward to achieve our common goals, avoid misunderstandings, and deliver the smart fare product intended to enhance the transit customer experience. This also pertains to the implementation, the ongoing operations, and maintenance of a shared electronic smart fare collection system and all related technologies and systems. This MOU is going to incorporate the governance, key features of smart fare technology, cost sharing, and revenue aspects of the smart fare system. And there are no financial commitments with this MOU, and any budget impacts will be brought forward to the 2019 budget deliberations.
Thank you very much. It's nice to see we're moving forward on these regional initiatives. Are there any questions of council? Councillor Montgomery.
Thank you, Your Worship. Thank you for the presentation. I read through the memo. It looks very strong. First question and then a comment. The fees, so the agency fee of $100,000 and then the $4,000 per bus for equipment, is that something that could be applied through grant funding, through typically like an MSI?
Thank you, Your Worship. Through to Councillor Munkoff-Swain. At this time, we are looking at grant funding opportunities. It sounds like the province is looking at bringing in a PTIF Phase 2, so that's the Public Transit Infrastructure Fund that we got money for our heated bus shelter at the Ken Nickel Arena for Park and Ride. So there's opportunities there. There would be potential opportunities for MSI or things like that. Our current fleet does have the system in the bus already, so that $4,000 won't have to be spent. And that $100,000 technology fee is still being, I guess, kind of debated with VIX Technologies on what that final number will be.
Okay, thank you. And I guess the comment would be, we had some discussion last week actually about a project, and one of the options was to use a lot of, or max out all of the MSI funding for it. And I appreciate there could be some other grants, but this is a good example of one of the worries of potentially maxing out MSI to pay for things like Aquafit Phase 2. So if that other provincial grant came through, that would be great. If not, then MSI is a great fall down place for something like this. So I just wanted to note that, and I fully support this. Thank you.
Councillor Stout.
Thank you, Worship. Through your Worship to Ms. Lewin. I understand what you've already told us, that there's no financial commitments with this MOU. I just wanted, but there are financial amounts discussed for the upgrades, as has just been alluded to by Councillor Munkoff-Swain. Just want to be absolutely certain. Signing on to this MOU does not oblige us to pay any of these amounts, or there is no commitment. There are no financial commitments attached, even to the amounts mentioned here.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through to Councillor Stout, there's absolutely no financial commitment to us at this time. Anything that we would come back through budget deliberations.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much. Do I have somebody prepared to move the motion to sign the MOU? Councillor Stout.
Yes, Your Worship. So moved.
Thank you. Discussion on the motion. Hearing none, all in favor? That carries unanimously. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, next item on the agenda, item 7C, Development Permit 2017-623, Direct Control District, the recreational vehicle storage. Ms. Dargy, sorry, it got to be a little.
Thank you, Worship. Through to members of Council. So a public hearing was held earlier in the evening and no additional presentations were made. As indicated previously, conditions of the development permit were modified or clarified to address delineation of the development location, screening, and dust suppression. Delineation of the development area will be provided for in Condition 6 by means of posts, fencing, shrubbery, trees, and/or other landscaping. Screening will be enhanced by adding shrubs and/or trees at a minimum height of 1.8 meters on the east side of the development, and by adding 9 additional trees on the west side as indicated on page 110 of your agenda. Screening is in place on the north side of the development. Dust suppression on Range Road 244 is required twice per year and shall commence 20 meters south of the property and extend a total of 120 meters. This will be at a cost to the applicant as per Beaumont's fees and charges. 2 applications per year is common practice. It is Leduc County's current practice as well. The cost is $400 per application for the first 120 meters. So regardless if you do 50 meters or 75 meters or 120 meters, it's still going to cost the applicant $400. And that's the minimum. It's applied in the spring and fall. They have missed this year's application, as applications are received in the spring for the entire year. So that dust suppression in that location won't happen until next year. Should you have any additional questions or require clarification on the proposed conditions, I'd be happy to answer those.
Thank you very much. Do I have someone prepared to move the motion that we approve the development? The council approved development permit number 2017-63 for recreational vehicle storage to be located at Plan 862-1006, Lot 1, with the development permit conditions as attached. Councillor Van Newkirk.
I'll move the motion.
Thank you. Discussion on the motion. Councillor Munkoff-Swain.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through to administration. A couple of things. Firstly, appreciate all the work that has gone into bringing this information back. It's clear that you've worked with the applicant and the adjacent landowner as well to bring back a comprehensive summary for us. So thank you for all that work. It makes our job a lot easier. I'd just like to acknowledge the comment that was read into the record earlier on this evening about applying once versus twice, which I appreciate you acknowledging, it being consistent practice for Leduc County. So thank you. I think that answers that. And then also the comment regarding the length of the dust suppression required. I think if we all recall, it was initially going to be kind of from Township 510 all the way up. So I think we've reduced that to 120 metres. So I think it's a very good compromise. And so I just wanted to acknowledge those comments. I support the motion or the recommendation that's on the table. I think it's a good compromise, and hopefully we can move forward with this. So thank you.
Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor? That carries unanimously. Appreciate it. And once again, thank you very much. This was a lot of hard work getting to this point, so appreciate it, and thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. Item 7D, Direct Control District, permit 2018-164, home-based business. Ms. Dargy.
Thank you again, Your Worship, and through to members of council. Presented to you this evening is a development permit application received for a home-based business providing on-site photography services and operating under the name Scott Molnar Photography. The development is located in a direct control district, which district does not have site-specific regulations and does not delegate approval authority from council to the development officer. As such, council is the deciding authority, and pursuant to council policy number 6, we request that council receive this permit and schedule a public hearing for June 12th. If you have any questions, I would be happy to answer them at this time as well.
Thank you very much. Is there any councillor prepared to move the motion for first reading? Councillor Barnhart.
I will move first reading, Your Worship.
Thank you very much. Discussion on the motion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Just a point of clarification. It's not there's no first reading for this. It's just that you're scheduling
sorry.
a public hearing.
Going backwards.
Yeah.
Public. Sorry, I'm into bylaws.
Yeah.
Yeah, schedule motion that we schedule a public hearing on this. Councillor Barnhart. Once again, all in favor? Okay, that carries unanimously. Sorry for the confusion. Thank you. All right, item 8A, bylaws. Bylaw 912-18, amendment for the veterinary clinics, second and third reading. Mr. Wong.
So this bylaw is ready for second and third reading after the public hearing was closed earlier today. And to answer Councillor Stout's questions with regarding to the definition there, and actually the answer to that is the definition, the writing is correct because the land use bylaw regulates the use and not the user, so that is why it can be replaced synonymously as in the case of the vet clinic. So basically it's the use and not the user. So, and the bylaw is ready for second and third reading. I have no additional remarks to make.
Thank you very much. Do I have a member of council prepared to move, and I'm quite confident this time, second reading? Councillor Danlock.
Thank you, Your Worship. I move second reading. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any discussion on the motion? Councillor Muncaw-Swain.
I appreciate the applicant isn't here anymore, but I just wanted to thank the applicant for the great presentation. And it's great to see a local resident come back to Beaumont and invest in our community, and hopefully it all goes well. So I certainly support this motion.
Fair enough. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor? Carries unanimously. Is there a member of council prepared to move third reading? Councillor Van Newkirk.
Move third reading, Your Worship.
Discussion on the motion? Hearing none. All in favor? Carries unanimously. Thank you very much once again for all your hard work in getting this one across the finish line too. Item 8B. Bylaw 914-18, Triumph Phase 6 Land Use Bylaw Amendment. Once again, Mr. Wong.
Yep. So, His Worship and members of Council, the administration received an application to redistrict a portion of the northeast quarter section of 26, Township 50, Range 24, and west of 4th Meridian in the Triumph Estate neighborhood. The application proposes to amend the land use bylaw from R1A, low-density residential district, to R1B, low-density small lot residential district, and PRS, public recreation services district. The proposal transitioned well into the adjacent residential neighborhood while incrementally increasing the density by using the land more efficiently with smaller lot residential developments in the area. The administration supports the proposed redistricting application. Bylaw 914-18 is ready for first reading.
Thank you very much. Is there a member of council prepared to read first reading this evening? Councillor Montgomery.
I'll move first reading, Your Worship.
Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none. All in favor? Vote's been called. You can ask a question afterwards. Carried unanimously. And Councillor Stout has a quick question.
Thank you, Worship. Through your Worship to Mr. Wong. Could you quickly advise me what the difference between R1-A and R1-B actually is?
Virtually, the two districts are the same except for the lot width. R1A, the lot width is 14 meters, and R1B, the lot width is 11 meters. So it's just the difference between the lot width. Yep.
Thank you. So it's just a narrower lot, effectively. Thank you. Can I ask a second question?
Go ahead.
The section that's going from R1A to PRS, indicated green on the map, is that's a long, thin tongue of land. Would I be right in thinking that that would be for a path, trail, or pavement of some kind?
Yep, that's correct.
Okay, so that's a trail.
Yep.
Or will become one.
Yep, it will be.
And hence the rezoning. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Stout. Moving on to Bylaw 8C, 915-18, Municipal Reserve Disposal, Place Chaleroux, first reading. Mr. Wong.
Okay. Bylaw 915-18, Place Chaleroux for the Municipal Reserve Disposal. Actually, it is related to the next bylaw, 916-18. So basically, this, the administration received an application to redistrict Lot 10 and Lot 11MR, Block 5, Plan 152-1520 in the Place Chaleroux Business Park, north of Highway 625, south of Magazine Avenue, and west of the existing Francophone School. In order for the redistricting application to proceed, the municipal reserve that was previously designated, that is not 11MR, at the north portion of the site needs to be disposed so it can be relocated, i.e. swapped, and redistricted to the south portion of the site. The subject site has challenges with grading and stormwater. As such, the applicant has proposed that the site be reconfigured to take advantage of the natural topography of the area by relocating the MR site to the south. The Municipal Government Act, particularly Section 674, subsection 1, requires the council to hold a public hearing prior to the disposal of the municipal reserve site. The Municipal Government Act also requires a sign to be posted on the site. Once approved, the council may direct the designated officer to notify the registrar of the Land Titles Office to remove the MR destination from Lot 11. So the administration support the relocation of the MR parcel. Bylaw 915-18 for the disposal of municipal reserve is ready for first reading.
Thank you very much. Is there a member of council prepared to remove first reading this evening? Councillor Stout.
So moved, Your Worship.
Thank you. Discussion on the motion? Questions of admin? Hearing none. All in favor? That carries unanimously. Next item on the agenda tonight is item 8D 916-18, Place Chaleroux Phase 7, first reading. Mr. Wong.
So the bylaw 916-18 is an application, actually a continuation of the previous bylaw, 915, which Council just gave the first reading. It proposes to rezone from PRS, Public Recreation Services, and C2, Commercial District, to a different configuration of PRS and C2 districts. The purpose of the application is to apply the appropriate land use district to the reconfigured site. The original MR parcel will be redistricted from PRS to C2, while the new municipal reserve in the south portion will be redistricted from C2 to PRS. This would facilitate a more efficient use of the land for commercial development, improve the layout of buildings on the parcel, and to provide for development and additional small parks and sitting areas within the parcel. Administration supports the relocation, the swap of the municipal reserve, and the redistricting application both from a planning and engineering perspective. The proposal not only maintains a pedestrian connectivity along 30th Avenue, but also aesthetically enhances the pedestrian experience along Highway 625. Bylaw 916 is ready for first reading.
Thank you very much. Is there a member of council prepared to move first reading? Councillor Stout.
So moved, Your Worship.
Any discussion on the motion? Councillor Stout.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through Your Worship to Mr. Wong. The two areas shown on map, which one is it? What attachment number is this? Schedule A, page 148 or 158. There's the red and the green area, which essentially we are swapping. Are they approximately the same area? They look as though they are, but do we know?
You mean the red area on
the red area and the green area? Is the total square footage of each roughly the same?
Yep, that is correct. They are the same.
Thank you. I just want to ensure that we weren't giving away something of value by losing a significant area of land.
Yep.
Thank you.
Further discussion on Councillor Danlock.
Thank you, Worship. Mr. Wong, just a quick question, just so I find the spot here. You mentioned a moment ago in your summation that it'll aesthetically enhance the pedestrian experience along Highway 625. How do we anticipate that'll be aesthetically enhancing? Do we have anything we can, is that too deep a weeds in the question, or that's just a general question? How are we plan on making it aesthetically more pleasing?
Through the worship.
We're a little in the weeds, but
don't go too deep. Just a quick answer to that.
Okay. Yeah. The proposal came to the Committee of the Whole on March 20th. At the time, the proponent proposes some renderings, and that shows a walkway connecting from along these new parcels to the stormwater facility there.
I remember that now. Thank you very much for refreshing my memory. Thank you.
Any further discussion on the motion? Hearing none. All in favor? That carries unanimously. Whew. Bylaw. Next item on the agenda, Bylaw 917-18, Land Use Bylaw Amendment, PRS District 1, first reading. Ms. Dargy.
Just a fixture.
Just like you're doing a great job.
Letter change.
Oops, I got the wrong one here. Thank you, Your Worship and members of Council. Presented this evening is an amendment to the Land Use Bylaw Public Recreation District to add the use community centers as a permitted use. In 2011, Council approved Beacon Park as the relocation site for the St. Jacques Heritage House. Beacon Park is dedicated municipal reserve pursuant to the Municipal Government Act and may only be used for certain purposes. The use of the St. Jacques House falls within those purposes. However, the permitted and discretionary uses in the PRS district does not currently allow for the particular use intended with the St. Jacques House. In order to accommodate this use, it is necessary to amend the district to allow for community centers as defined in the land use bylaw. Community centers are used for meetings, social, or recreational activities, and administration requests that Council give first reading to bylaw 917-18 to make the applicable amendment.
Thank you very much. Is there a member of Council wishing to move first reading? Councillor Barnhart.
Thank you, Your Worship. I would make the motion, and then I have a question, if I may.
Carry on.
Okay. Thank you very much. The question is, I was just a little surprised by this, because I thought community centers would always be on public recreation land, and I'm thinking of the CCBCC. Is that, what kind of land, what's the use there? What's the zoning there?
That zoning is urban services institutional, so it is different.
Okay, so different municipalities can choose to put things in different places? Because I know community leagues, for example, in the city of Edmonton are on municipal reserve.
That's correct. So
It's
municipal
choice.
reserve, so the Municipal Government Act states what certain uses can be on there, and then the municipality, through its land use bylaw, defines what those uses are, but they do have to match the Municipal Government Act.
Okay. No, thank you. I support the motion.
Thank you very much. Councillor Van Newkirk.
Hello, thank you, Your Worship, through the presenter. More of a, I guess, process or order type question. So the spot for the house is the Beacon Park. At what point in the process, or are we already past it, where residents might speak in opposition or raise concerns around increased parking or more traffic around the area or such? I haven't heard anything. Just for my own information, if anyone was to ask, are we through that point in the process, or does that still come up?
Your Worship, through to Councillor Van Newkirk. So the part of the process right now with the redistricting or with the text amendment, by adding community centres as a permitted use, Council could choose to indicate those as a discretionary use. A discretionary use then is put out to the public for their opportunity to appeal when a development permit is submitted and issued, made a decision on. If it's as a discretionary use, the deciding authority is the development officer. So it's only at that time, if it's a discretionary use, do people have an opportunity to appeal it in any way, shape, or form.
Okay, thank you.
And just to put a little history on it, because I was here when it was first approved, yeah, we did go through a process where we had a public hearing and the announcements were made, and it's just taken an awful long time to get the house ready to move. Mm-hmm. So, but yeah, no, we've been through it once already.
Looks like there's about 7 parking stalls or something like that from the picture. So, good, thank you. Just
yeah, no worries. Councillor Stout.
Thank you, Worship. Through Your Worship to Mr. Darji. Could you just briefly describe to me the difference between a community centre, which is the designation we're adding, and a community recreation facility? I'm assuming that this doesn't qualify as a community recreation facility, so could you explain to me why it doesn't, as I assume we wouldn't need to make this change if it did?
Thank you, Your Worship. Through to Councillor Stout. So according to the land use bylaw, community recreation facility is defined as services for sports and active recreation conducted indoors and outdoors. So it's more of like the aquafit, as opposed to what we're proposing as a community centre.
Which is what exactly will...
So the community centre is used for meeting social and recreational activities, so it's more encompassing.
But not sports and activities of that nature.
Correct.
Thank you.
Any further discussion on the motion? Hearing none, call the vote. All in favor? Carries unanimously. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for coming in tonight. We really appreciate that. We're around. All right, moving to item 9, councillor and committee reports. Are there any councillors wishing to address council this evening? Nope. Okay, I have one item that I'd like to do. It was sort of, once it came to our attention that most municipalities read the proclamations that we as council endorse and the mayor puts out. So starting in that vein, I'd like to start with the first one tonight, and hopefully once we get into cracking our procedural bylaw in the next month or so, we'll actually have an agenda spot where we can do proclamations. So first one out, proclamation, Beaumont Pride Week, June 8th to 17th, 2018. Whereas Beaumont celebrates the diversity that strengthens our community, including individuals who identify as lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgendered, queer, two-spirited, and all other sexual orientations and gender identities. And whereas the intent of Pride Week is to encourage Beaumont to be a safe and welcoming place for people of all sexual orientations and gender identities to attend school, to work, to raise a family, to start a business, and to live. And whereas Beaumont Pride promises to provide hope and support for our employees, our youth, and other community members who experience bullying and harassment based on their sexual orientation or gender identity. And whereas the Rainbow Pride flag is raised in honor on our LGBTQ2 plus employees and community members. Now therefore, I, Mayor John Stewart, do hereby proclaim June 8th to the 17th, 2018 as Pride Week in the town of Beaumont, dated this 22nd day of May, 2018. Thank you very much. All right. Any further questions from council? All right. CAO's updates.
Just very, very briefly to build off that proclamation, we're looking at painting a crosswalk in Pride colors, and we also have some Pride flags that'll fly that week as well in all the municipal buildings. So that's really neat. That's all I have tonight.
Thank you. Tonight. Nice and quick. No correspondence. Are there any notices of motion this evening? Seeing none. And there being no in-camera items, this meeting is adjourned. Well, for the record, he wins. Thank you. Having said that, if Staff Sergeant Ian had taken just a few minutes less,